Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about generic classes in Java. Generic classes are one of the best way to create structures to work with different types of data. It's an efficient way to create flexible and reusable classes and interfaces in Java. Generic classes allow us to create interfaces, classes, and some other structures which is able to take object as a parameter. In this way, we can work with different types of object with same implementation in a type-safe way. Generic classes are improving the code reusability with cleaner and more maintainable way. Generally, we can see the generic class usages with collections in Java. Now, let's make an example about generic classes. For it, I would like to use a nested class inside. And generic class accepts the type identifier inside angled brackets. So now I would like to create a variable. In this variable, we will keep the value. And I also would like to create a constructor. Now, as you can see, we are assigning the value on the initialization. Also, I would like to define a getter. Okay, now our class is ready. Now let's use our generic class. Firstly, I need to initialize our generic class. Generic, let's make it string. And it will be also generic. Let's make it integer, for example. And also, let's initialize our generic class with a boolean. Let's make it false. Now I would like to use getValue. I also would like to print the other values here. Okay, now our example is ready. Let's run the application. As you can see, we are accessing all of three classes with same method. As you can see here, we have defined our class with generic identifier in an angled brackets after the class definition. Inside the class, we added some functions to handle the generic object, which is represented by the generic identifier instances here. In the main function, we have just initialized the generic class and used same method for all of data types to get the value which is wrapping by the generic classes. That was it for the class definitions. Now let's make an example about generic functions. Let's start with cleaning the main function. Here I would like to define two functions. It will be public static and it will be void. Let's make it print individual. And this will accept T type of data and we will print this data. Okay, now let's also define a similar function, this time accepting the array of t type of data. Now let's print it. So as you can see here, it is an array, so we can use a for. And we can reuse our print individual function. Okay, now let's call these functions. Print individual, for example, and another example. Okay, now let's call, and as you can see, we have our data here. And we are calling this function with different type of data. Now let's define some arrays. For example, okay, now let's call print array function. For example, okay, now as you can see, we also have our array here. As you can see, we have declared two methods here with generic type of data type, and we are calling same functions with different types of data. Now let's talk about some advantages of generic classes. The first one is for sure clean code. With generics, we can reduce the object casting, and this can reduce the complexity of the code. The second one is reusability. Generic classes allow us to use same code with different types of data. The third one is performance improvements. With reducing the dynamic casting, we can reduce the type checks in the runtime, and this makes more performant code execution. The last one is type safety. Type checks are done in compile time instead of runtime with the help of generic classes. So we will not have any runtime type check issues. That is it for the generics in Java. If you have some more questions, let's meet in the comments. Happy coding!